at this point, with where I am on the wedding dress and how many things I've been able to finish, I twisted all of my cables the wrong way, and when I'm not able to meet my expectations, I just don't want to partake anymore. Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Olina and I'm a knitter from Norway, and welcome to my knitting podcast. Here I talk about all things knitting, current projects, finished projects, planned projects, yarn, anything that pops into my head while I sit here and chat with you all. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. This podcast is filmed a day later than usual. It's filmed this Saturday, which you would think has meant I've gotten more time to knit, but this week I've really struggled to knit. I struggled to find the time to film this. I've just struggled my way through this week, so I haven't been able to knit that much, but I did knit a fair amount at the start of the week, and then I have also been able to knit more towards the very end of the week. But I have a bit to show for it. But before we head into that, I want to talk about what I'm wearing today. And today I am wearing probably one of my most cozy sweaters, and that is the Never sweater. I test knit this for Kalila last year, I think last November. So we are coming up on the 1 year anniversary of this as well. And it was my first time knitting anything in lilac. It was my first time knitting anything from that designer, but I think it was also her first pattern, and I love it. I love the color. I want to knit more in it. I think it's amazing. I also love the fit of this. It is very different from anything I usually knit. Usually I don't do super oversized, which this is. It's super duper oversized. I don't do as much raglan anymore, which this also is, and yeah, it's just very different from what I usually choose, but I just fell in love with this pattern and I just had to knit it, so I test knit it, and I'm so happy I chose to knit something a bit outside of my comfort range, because this is such a comfort knit to wear, and also since it's lilac, or I don't know, the color is called Orchid, it's in Drops Lima. It really reminds me of Advent. I know I used it a lot last December in the Advent time, and I'm probably going to do that now too. I haven't used it that much in the last few months because it is a really warm sweater because of the Lima, and it's just a really warm sweater. But I love it for the like cozy holiday season, and I've just gotten it back out of my closet in anticipation for that, and I'm so excited about it. I did make a few very minor changes since I was a test knitter. I didn't change anything that would like really alter the pattern, but you were able to choose the length you wanted for things, because the original sample, both the length of the body and of the sleeves are really long, which I think looks cute, but I don't like super long sleeves for myself because I also want to be able to do stuff wearing my sweaters. I want to be able to cook and just pull them up really easily, so I wanted them not that oversized. They're still on the longer side. They almost cover my whole palm, which I love. It's so cozy, but not crazy long. I also made so many mistakes with this sweater because I didn't read the pattern right. So I think the first time I tried to make it, you're supposed to stop doing increases for the sleeve a good while before you stop doing increases for the body, and the first time I tried I had not done that, and I'd finished a sleeve and also done a bit on the body, so I had to frog a lot. But after I went back and fixed that, I really love the size of the sleeves. They're oversized but not like a crazy amount, and it's still like a functional sweater. I can still do things in it without the sweater getting in my way. And for the body I also cropped it, not as much as I usually do. I usually end my sweaters about here, but because this is so oversized I didn't feel the need to do that. I usually do it because I don't want the sweater to cling to my hips. I don't think that's a very flattering look on me, but that wouldn't be an issue with this anyways, so I didn't stop it here. But what I decided to do was to start a split ribbing here. I did crop it a bit, the body a bit in terms of the length in the pattern, and I also chose to do split ribbing. And it made sense to me that since I usually stop my sweaters here, to start the split at that point, and I'm really happy with that choice, and that I also chose to do split ribbing. I think the reason why I chose to do it split is because I had already made my sweater number 14 v-neck, and I love that, and I think that's the only other quite oversized sweater I have, and I love that, and that also has a split hem, and I think that's part of the reason why I really love them. I think that's really flattering on oversized sweaters. So I think for me, from here on out, I'm going to always on my really oversized sweaters do split hems, because I think that's really flattering and really cute. But as I said, this is made in Drops Lima and in the color Orchid, and it hasn't pilled that much. You have to, this is a year old, but I haven't used it for a year because I didn't use it any in the summer months, but like half a year of winter use in this. I'm quite happy with how it's held up. I have had some issues with Lima and Nepal and Flora pilling. Those yarns pill quite a lot for me, but they're also so great to knit with and to use that I will always keep using those yarns. And I have both a deep piller, the Petiteknit one, the electrical one, and a wool comb. So for me, that's not really an issue if it pills like this in use. If it starts pilling immediately and while you're still knitting on it, like I have experienced Daisy do a bit, that's kind of another story, because I don't want the sweater to just pill away and disintegrate, but I don't feel like that's what Lima does. It just pills a bit here and there, and I think it's a lot of the fiber fluff that kind of stands up on this. I don't know if you can see, but there is a tiny bit of fluff because of 35% of alpaca that's in this, so I think that's mostly what's making the pilling. But that's enough for me rambling on about this sweater, and we can get into this week of knits. And as always, we'll start with the wedding dress, and there's nothing really to say. I haven't done anything, but I got a lot of really helpful comments on the last video where I talked about the mohair skirt, because I talked about how this is already floor length and how I only have like 5 centimeters more to go on it maybe, and I got so many helpful comments that said it will grow in length, just hang it up and see how much it grows. Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to that point. I need to find some place where I can hang it, but I'm definitely going to do that, and I'm so glad someone told me, because I had not thought about that at all. It had totally slipped my mind, so I'm very glad that I got that reminder that knits grow. I do kind of know that, but I just have not thought about it in terms of this. I have not made anything in just mohair before. The only thing kind of close that I've made is my cumulus blouse in alpaca silk, and I just don't think that's the same as just mohair. But I think my idea from here is to cast this off, because I think it will be, after it's grown in length, I think it might be too long anyways. But I'm going to knit to the start of the row, and then I'm going to cast off, and then after it's hung for a while, I don't know how much it will grow because it is very lightweight, so I don't know how much the weight will put on it, but I'm sure it will grow. And then however much it grows that is too much, I'm just going to sew that up to create kind of a neater finish, and that way I won't have to knit more to make that knitwear finish, I can just see however much is too much, and if it's like 10 centimeters too much, then I will frog, but if it's less, then I'll just sew it up and it will be a knitwear finish. I think that's my plan now, because I haven't done any increases for a long time, ever since the start of this, so it should be very easy to just sew it to kind of make a double-edged edge to this skirt. I don't know if I'm explaining it very well, but that's my plan now. And then I'll also have cast this on. I think that's why my plan is to cast it off now instead of letting it hang with the needles on. But also I don't want to let it hang with the needles attached, because the needles are quite heavy, but they're heavy at one point, and then I'm afraid it would be a lopsided skirt. So I think the best idea is to get the needles out of it and just cast it off and see from there. Don't know how I'll hang it up without it ending up lopsided, but I'm just going to try a few different ways. But that means that this is now done. Next time you see it, it will be cast off. I had half hoped that I would be able to get to that now, but I'm trying to knit this row because I figured that would be quicker than to frog, and it's just taking quite some time, but I think that is the next thing I'll do once I'm done filming. I'm losing my voice now. That's also part of the reason why I haven't been able to knit that much this week, is because I think midway through the week I suddenly got sick. I had a fever, my throat hurt. I don't know quite why, but just really under the weather, sick. I did not have any spare energy to use on my knitting. If I didn't just immediately go to bed once my son went to bed, I just sat up staring at nothing. I didn't even have the energy to look at anything on the TV, so knitting was just out of the question for quite some days. I think I did a few stitches here and there to try, but it just didn't work out. So that definitely affected my productivity throughout the week. But I got quite a good kickstart. Now I am almost at the beginning of the row, but I think I'll stop there. But then I'm ready to go once I'm ready to pick this back up again. I also have not done anything on the main wedding dress. I know that is what I said I'll work on going forwards on the wedding dress, but at this point, with where I am on the wedding dress and how many things I've been able to finish, I'm not really stressed about my progress. I also don't know how much pearls and beads and bedazzlement I want on what's left, and that's really what's taken me the longest. I have my belt hanging back here, and the amount of hours spent first doing the I-cord around the belt and then sewing in the beads, I think that might have been what has taken me the longest, whereas knitting definitely takes time. It's a labor of love, but it doesn't take as long as doing beading. So now that I'm not that sure that I want to do that much more beading, I'm not really stressed about how fast the wedding dress progresses, because we still have, I think, at least 3 months, and that's a lot of knitting, and I only have maybe that many centimeters left to go on the wedding dress. I don't know, but I should be able to do it in less than a month if I just sit down and knit on it. Not saying that I'm going to wait till last month and then sit down and stress knit, but I'm not going to stress myself now. I'm just going to do a little bit here and there, and the week I was sick was not a week to prioritize it. But I'm not even going to pull that up because it's just nothing to show. But my next oldest whip then, I think, is sweater number 20. It's so hard to keep track of my oldest, newest, all of that with my whips now, because I have, I think, 7 whips right now, and also a lot of them are starting to be quite a few weeks old, and I also started so many of them within the same week. So now that they're all like 3-4 weeks, and I started them almost the same day. It's really hard to separate them, but I think this is what I started first, and I don't know if you can see that I've done anything more from last time, but I have. I know last time I talked about not being sure if I should do one more skein on the body or if I should just go into doing the sleeves immediately, but I decided that the right choice would be to do one more skein on the body, and I have done that. It didn't grow by a crazy amount, it just grew a little bit, but now I feel more ready to do the sleeves. This feels a bit more secure now. Not that it wasn't secure before, but I just imagine the weight of the sleeve, and when I'm working on that, I want this to be structured enough and heavy enough on its own that it's not, that it doesn't make it harder for me to knit the sleeve. I imagine it could if it was just a few rows, but now I think it's good and I'm ready to do the sleeves. I am nervous to do the sleeves both because of the pickup and establishing the patterning on the sleeves, because I struggled a lot when I was establishing it on the body. I twisted all of my cables the wrong way, and until I had twisted them quite a few times, I would twist them the other way, and I would do this and I would do that, and it was a mess. I frogged so many times, forgot to do the increases, I forgot everything I was supposed to do basically, and it took me a while to get into it, but now I finally am into it and I can knit just from looking at this and not the charts. And now I have to go back to looking at the charts religiously, double checking everything I'm doing, because if not, I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong, and that's intimidating. And also this is already a really heavy sweater. It's knit in Drops Alaska, which is a really heavy yarn, which I think will be amazing for winter. I really can't wait to wear this. It will be the perfect sweater. I think I'm going to live in this, but now that it is so heavy and it's also worked on 5.5mm needles, which I am fine with for my hands usually, but 5.5mm needles with lots of structure. I'm also a bit of a tight knitter when it comes to structure, and also all of this weight. I am pretty sure that that's going to tire out my hands a lot, and I also have an issue putting down my knitting even though my hands start hurting, because it's just so fun, and especially with cables. This hasn't hurt me too much because it is in the round, and when it got to the point where it was heavy, at that point I could already rest it on my lap, which has helped a lot. But for sleeves, especially for the pickup, then you have to like hold it up pretty close to yourself, so I have to carry the weight. And then I think for the first sleeve I might be okay, but when you've added all of that weight and then you have to do this one, and for the first few rows you have to kind of hold up a lot of your knitting when you're knitting before the sleeve gets long enough to kind of put the knitting more down in your lap and move the sleeve instead of your knitting. Once I get to that point I think I'll be fine again, but I think when the sleeve is short and I have to move the knitting every time I have done a row, I think that could be quite tiring if I'm not good at taking breaks. Knowing myself, I'm not, so I think my hands might hurt a bit, so I'm been holding off on that a bit, and also just because of the picking up stitches. I always procrastinate picking up stitches, but at this point I'm so excited about getting this and wearing this that I think that might overcome my fear of both picking up stitches and my hands hurting. I don't have, the sleeves look really big, so I don't know what kind of needle I'll get away with using, but I don't have 40cm or DPNs in 5.5mm, so I'm going to visit my mom, and my grandma's also going to be visiting my mom today, so I'll ask them if they have that. They probably do, and if I can borrow it so I can do the sleeves on this, and then I'll probably be at least picking up stitches for this week. I'm still not knitting a lot. I haven't knit a lot today. I have knit a little bit today, but I'm still trying to not push it. I want to spend the majority of my time just doing nothing, so I'm honoring that. I do knit a lot other times, so the few times where I'm not feeling it, I'm trying to hold space for that, but hopefully I'll feel up for the challenge of this soon. This is Stroppsalaska, as I said, in the color Sand. I'm really excited about this. I haven't been able to check in with my friend about her progress. I haven't been able to knit much on this. I did one skein at the very start of the week, but now that I am ready to pick up for sleeves, I'll check in with her. I think me as a knitter, I like to finish the yoke and then do the neckline and then just do a little bit on the body and then do sleeves. I think she likes to do the yoke, then the body, then the sleeves, then the neckline. So we might do it in a different order, but I still want to kind of check in to see that we are kind of at the same progress. So I'll do that. But that is my sweater number 20. It is by Myfavouritethings.knitwear, if I didn't say, and I really recommend this if you're living somewhere where you have cold winters, because it is amazing. Of course, I haven't worn it yet, but I can already feel that this is going to be amazing, and I am really impressed and pleased with Alaska so far. It is definitely a rougher wool than merino, but I really like the kind of roughness to this, and yeah, I'm just really impressed with all of this, super excited to wear it, and hopefully I'll be putting more of my times towards that soon. And then the whip that comes after that I think I cast on just a little while after, is this. This is my Dagmar jacket, which I've also been knitting on for quite a while. Also super excited for. This I'm also doing a knit along for, but this knit along is not just with one friend, but a bigger knit along with a group chat over on Instagram. So if you are knitting the Dagmar jacket or want to knit the Dagmar jacket, send me a message on Instagram and I can add you to that group chat if you want to. We just talk about our progress, ask questions if we have any, and I just love knit alongs. I want to do knit alongs for almost all of my projects, and I'm so happy that knitting has such a community where you knit together and it's just good vibes all around. That's one of my favorite things about knitting. But more on my Dagmar. This I'm knitting in Drops Nepal. This is not as stiff as the sweater number 20, so it's a bit harder to hold up and show. But this is it. I don't exactly know how much I've done on this since last week, but I'm pretty sure I did a skein on this as well. Also really early in the week. I think the skeins done on these were done on like Friday and Saturday, maybe some on Sunday, because after that I didn't really knit that much. But this is her. I don't think you can really see the progress. I really hope that by next week I've gotten in more project, but I think that's my problem now, that I have so many knits where I want to make progress that I just make a little bit on all of them each week. But this is where we're at right now. It is of course a bit hard to try it on with the needles in, but this is the length we're at, which is about the length I would end at if it was a sweater, but this being a jacket, I don't know. I'll have to look at the pattern to see if that suggests any row to end off, because I am closing in on a diamond ending, and I think that might be a good place to stop. Maybe, I don't know. I think that might be a good place to stop. And also if I was to stop at this one, that would be a bit too high up, I feel. But also if I'm to do more rows and then ribbing, I don't know if I would feel like that's too long. With this, my issue is just how oversized is this going to be, because as I said, I don't want any of my knitting to cling to my hips. So if it's oversized enough for it not to cling to my hips, I'm fine with it being longer. But if it's not, I don't want it to be that long, and I just don't know. And also trying it on with the needles right here aren't really helping, but I don't know. It looks a bit oversized to me, but maybe not that much. I'm glad I tried it on now so I could see how close I was. Also, since this has no ribbing, it's a bit harder to tell because some length will be added in between here, and also getting ribbing on here will build that out a bit, I think. So I just think it's really hard to tell. Also, it's structured so blocking, but I definitely think I'm going to stop soon, because this is kind of where I like to stop my knitting and what I think is the most flattering on me. I just don't know how oversized that's going to be. That's kind of what's making it hard to make up my mind, but I'm definitely going to be switching over to doing ribbing soon, which I'm really excited about, because that means that I'm closer to doing ribbing on these edges, and I've been waiting to do that ever since I joined the shoulders and the back yoke together, because that's usually the point where I do the ribbing. Like for this, once I joined the yoke together, I did the neckline, and for this one I couldn't, because before you do the neckline you're supposed to do the button bands, and to do the button bands I of course have to finish the whole body of it. So I've been super excited to finish the body so I can actually do all of the ribbing and the button bands and the neckline, because I think it's so much easier to try on and really see how you feel about it, how you feel about the length. Of course now I have to figure out the length before I do the button bands, but it's much easier to try on a project and gauge how you feel, and it also looks much more like the real deal once you get the ribbing on. So I'm super excited to do that. Seeing I'm so close gave me a lot more motivation. Maybe this is my way out. I feel like every time I'm a bit like unable to knit, I end up in a knitting slump. Now that I have knit this week, it's very dramatic to say that I haven't been knitting this week, but I haven't been able to knit as much this week as I had hoped, because I had high expectations and it just didn't work out. Every time I feel that way, I get into a knitting slump, and it's silly, but just when I'm not able to meet my expectations, I just don't want to partake anymore. But seeing this and seeing that I've actually made progress and how close I am, because these two, they've been on my needles for quite some time. I think it feels longer for me, because when I started it was very much fall. We still had some leaves on the trees. I think we were able to go outside not wearing coats and not necessarily wearing hats. I could knit outside easily without freezing my fingers off. It was a very nice part of fall, and now that I'm looking out, I just see frost. The trees outside of my windows are just covered in frost. So we've changed seasons since I started working on these, and that just makes it feel like I've been working on them forever. And I did start working on these in expectation of changing season, and because I knew that we were heading into colder weather, and now that we're here, I just want to actually wear them. So I need to get more knitting time and to get somewhere on these. But my next project is what I was really supposed to spend almost all of the time this week knitting on. And of course, when I started finally having the chance to knit a lot on this, because I've been knitting this in secret. This is the Milan Sweater man that I've been knitting for my fiance's birthday. That was yesterday. And I've been knitting this for a bit over 3 weeks, I think. I should have been able to finish it, but I've been knitting it in secret. So the main knitting hours of my weeks, I haven't been able to knit on this until this week. And then when he left for his work on Sunday, I had that day to knit, which I got done a bit then. I think when he left, I had finished the yoke and I was a couple of centimeters into the yoke. So I got to knit a bit then, but then I was tired, I was sick, I had a fever, I just felt terrible. And then I also felt terrible that I would not be able to finish this, because I understood that quite quickly, because I didn't have that many days to do it. My kind of timetable was that I would do the sleeves, use like 1 day for each of the sleeves, and then the reminder on the body. And I was supposed to start the sleeves earlier too, but when I realized that I wasn't going to be able to do it, I just decided to keep knitting on the body, because that was more mindless, so I would at least get something done. But yeah, I did really think I was going to make it, and I think I could have maybe made it, but being sick and caring for a child on my own, I just didn't account for how much time that would take away from my knitting. The last time we had a long period like this, when it's also cold outside, our son napped for like 3 hours each day, which makes a huge difference. That gave me 3 more hours of knitting time each day, and losing those, I didn't account for it, but that made a big difference in how much I got to knit, and also me being sick. But I think I was about here until yesterday, honestly, where yesterday I got to knit quite a bit, even though I didn't feel the best. But I did knit a bit, and then I've also knit a bit today, and I've actually started the ribbing. And I've also done the double knitting now, so the only thing that's left is to do what's it called, the Italian bind off, or the tubular bind off, which I thought I'd start on just a bit, but I did kind of gift it away yesterday, or I didn't gift it away, I showed it to him and told him my plans, and he was really happy. He also tried it on today, because I was unsure about the length. I have tried to measure it next to his other sweaters, especially like his favorite one, the one he uses the most, to try to figure out the length, but I was really unsure, so I got him to try it on. So hopefully it will work out, and he did really like trying it on. He said it was really nice and lightweight, and that it fills a gap in his knitted wardrobe. He has zipper sweaters, both the thick and the thin, and a Mario sweater, but he doesn't have kind of a more basic knit in this thickness. His other knits, I think, are warmer, because they are alpaca or really high necked, or a lot thicker than this. So I think this is more of a casual knit, where it doesn't have to be super cold to wear it, and I hope he will enjoy it. But yeah, it's been a bit of an uphill battle, and I didn't get it done, but I am happy with my progress, and he could at least see that it was supposed to be a sweater. And I think because of the progress I have actually been able to make, that this will be done soon. I don't know if my original idea of knitting a sleeve a day is going to be likely, but I think this should be done by next week. If I'm able to motivate myself. It's also easier now that it's been given away, and it doesn't have to be kept secret anymore. And it's easier now that I know he also likes it. That also gives me a lot of motivation. But here it is. The top part is kind of blocked, kind of not, because we had an accident. My son tried to bake involving this, so this was smeared in all kinds of stuff. So I had to try to save it. Luckily I did. I don't think you can tell that this was part of a baking experiment. There are some spots that I have spotted since, but it's not super visible. I think the melange effect of this helps, and I'm also going to wash it once it's actually done. But the top part has been like kind of blocked because of that, because I had to soak it in water and try to scrub that off without felting it. I was really scared about that because I had to use somewhat hot water to get it out and also scrub it somewhat to get it out, but it didn't felt, and it also made the neckline lay really nicely, and it made the fabric up here a lot softer, so it's really nice to touch now. So all in all, it was okay, even though it wasn't my favorite experience at the time, but we were able to save it. I don't think you can tell, apart from the very clear difference from yoke to body. I don't think you can tell anything went wrong with the yoke here and baking. But yeah, that is the Melange sweater so far. Unfortunately not done, but I really think I could have it done soon now that the body is done too. It should go quick, but again, it's just that picking of sleeves that I tend to procrastinate. But I think it not being a secret anymore and my fiancé knowing about it means that he could also give me a bit of a push to just do it. So I really think that helps, and it's also been nice for him to be a part of the journey of making this, because that meant that I was able to try it on him today. I could extend the ribbing a little bit. So all in all, I think it worked out. I would maybe not say for the best, but it worked out in a really great way still, even if I wasn't able to finish it. And I'm glad I didn't try to stress finish it, even though at some point I just knew it was impossible. I'm glad I just settled with that and just tried to relax instead of pushing myself too much. So I'm going to count that as a win. And then my next project is the Celeste, which was a project I was not supposed to do. But then I did, and I'm really happy I did, because it's been really fun. I love the yoke on this. I'm really happy with the colors I chose. The more I look at them, the more they're growing on me. They're kind of Christmassy because of the red and because of color work, because that just reminds me of Christmas. And it's just a really fun, bold, colorful child sweaters. I think that will be great. Still haven't done anything about these ends. I have, this is also part of a knit along. If you are wanting to do the Celeste, making a Celeste, both the stocking, child sweater, man sweater, female version, all of them are welcome. If you want to join the Knit Along group chat on Instagram, send me a message and I'll add you. But someone in that group chat did say something about being able to braid ends. I don't know if that's possible with this because they are somewhat spaced out, but I'm going to look into a tutorial or something to see if that's possible, because if it is, I'm going to do that, of course, because it's like 20 ends, maybe, I think. Maybe more. But it's a lot. So if I'm able to just braid it and then do something with the braid at the end or something. That would be amazing. I don't know if it would be kind of too thick on the back though, if you were to do that, if a child would think that was uncomfortable. But I'll have to look into it. I would love also tips if you have done like a braid sort of thing with your ends on color work, if you've done it for children, were they annoyed by it, tips on how to do it. I'm going to look into tutorials and kind of how it looks and how bulky it looks, but I would also like to hear first-hand experiences. But for what I've actually done this week, I did finish the body. I don't know how much I'd left, not much. I think I did a tiny bit of Strikkesoffe and then a tiny bit of ribbing, and then I cast off, with tubular cast off, of course. That is my go-to, and I'm really happy with how it looks. It looks really cute. And now I just have sleeves left, but part of why I finished this is because I needed the 4mm needles to do the Milan sweater, because I finished knitting this when there was still hope. And then I finished it all with the 3mm needles for the ribbing as well, because I realized that this is going to be a game of yarn chicken. I thought that I had more of this chalk color left upstairs here in my yarn corner, and that I hadn't taken it all with me when I started working on this. Turns out I had. So now I only have one skein left and maybe 5 grams of the last one. So it's not looking super great, but also sleeves for kids, how much yarn is there? And I also thought that I'm probably going to do both sleeves until a certain point, and if I don't have enough yarn, I will do some sort of color work with these colors. If it's just stripes on the ribbing, I don't know, depends on how much yarn I have, but I think that's the best idea, instead of buying more of this color when this whole thing was supposed to be a stash busting project. And that could be a different dye lot. It probably would be, because this yarn is old. And since this is already a colorwork sweater, I thought it would be better to just tie it in on the sleeves. If it turns out I have very little yarn, I will probably undo the ribbing here and do the ribbing in colorwork here as well. But I don't know yet. But I only have one skein left. It's been a little while since the last time I did a kid's sweater, so I can't really remember how much yarn I used for each sleeve, but it's not that much, so I feel like I might be okay. But this is also, I'm knitting bigger and bigger sizes, so I'm not quite sure, but I think my solution will work out. And I think tying in a little bit of color work at the end will make it look maybe possibly even cuter. I think I might want to undo the last part here anyways and do like I did on my porcelain sweater, like at least a border of maybe the red. I think a border of red down here would really tie it all together and look so cute, especially if I did something on the sleeves, but I haven't decided yet. I'll have to get further on this and see, but it's not really a priority because we have enough sweaters and I'm trying to finish some other things, but also I'm trying to clear my needles, and this would take the least amount of time. But first up is the Melange sweater, and then from there we'll see. I'll have more of an opportunity to choose myself after that. The next whip I have is this sitting mat. There's nothing to say, I don't have any more scraps for this yet, so this is just in hibernation mode. I think it's going to be in hibernation mode for a week or two more, maybe more, until I'm done with the Dagmar and see if I have any scraps from that, and also the sweater number 20. I don't think I have any other projects with yarn that would work for this. Triple stranding Flora could work, but also Flora I could use for so many like child's garment and stripes for that, so it's just not likely. This is probably going to be only for chunky yarn. But yeah, nothing much to say about that. And then I'm pretty sure my last project is this, and that's just the very, very, very beginning of Uværslua. I've totally fallen in love with that pattern. You can't see it's that pattern right now, but I think this is my third time knitting it, and I've loved knitting it the other times. The first time I did in Daisy, and then I did in alpaca wool. Love those, and I'm trying to knit a birthday gift for my twin cousins, and I knit them socks and felted seating mats. And now I just wanted one more thing, so I decided to do these hats because they are amazing. I love them, they're so great, they fit so great. So I've started making one here, and these I'm making in merino extra fine, but I stopped because I got sick, but also because I was really unsure about this yarn because it doesn't feel as dense or as like tight as the Daisy and alpaca wool has done, which is part of what I've liked because it's felt like the wind wouldn't be able to get through to the ears. And I don't know why that is. It might be because this is a superwash yarn, but I also think it's just because this is spun a lot more loosely, because I've had that like issue or feeling a lot before with merino extra fine, that it does make for quite loose knitting, and I'm a quite tight knitter, but with merino extra fine it's just everything is a bit loose because it's spun so loosely. So I've stopped here because this feels like such a little amount of knitting that it's very easy to just say, no, that doesn't work out, I should do a different yarn. And I would do a different yarn, but I don't have that many yarns where I have two different colors that go together. Daisy would be great for this, but I only have beige and green, and I don't think that would be great. And then I have some of the Drops Baby Merino, but I don't know if that would be the same problem with the superwash. So I'm not 100% sure. I do have some Sandnes garn Pergint from the outlet, but I think that is a bit thin, and it's also quite scratchy for baby's ears. So I'm just really unsure, and also I only have one color of that. So I just can't make my mind up if I like this, but my idea was to make this in dark green and the other one in, not green, dark grey, and the other one in light grey. So they would have different colors, but as I said, I can't make my mind up. But this is also just one layer, so I might be overthinking it. If it's double, it will be a lot more dense anyway, so I might be going ahead with this. But I would love to hear your suggestions. What do you think? Would you be happy to get a hat made with merino extra fine, which maybe isn't as dense? Would you prefer non-superwash or superwash for kindergarten kids? I don't know. So I would just love to hear all your suggestions and ideas and opinions. This is also my 4mm needle, so I have to steal them to make the melange anyways. So this is on a bit of a hiatus, or it's on a lot of hiatus now until I figure out the yarn and my opinion and make the melange. But I would love to hear. I might also go and check out Ravelry to see what kind of yarns people have been making this with, just to see if anyone else has done it with this and is happy. But yeah, that I'm pretty sure is my last whip. Hopefully it will be my last whip for a little while, because I'm trying to clear my needles. But also their birthday is next weekend, so I also have to cast on the other hat if I'm going to make them hats. So I have to get a bit of a move on. So I think November, December there's a lot happening. There are so many birthdays. My father's birthday is also in the next few weeks, and then it's Advent, and then it's Christmas, and then it's the New Year's. So I just already feel fully booked until January. So that's a bit stressful, but it's also fun. I'm having fun. It's been really fun to make the gifts for the twins, and also to make the gift for my fiance until I just failed. But it was fun in the start, and it's fun again now that I don't have to keep it hidden. And then but those are all of my current projects, and then I have one finished, I think. Last week I'd done this felted sitting mat, and I've also been able, I said needle punch last week, I think. That was the wrong word. I meant needle felting, where you have some special sort of needle and some yarn or wool. I used yarn, and you just poke it until it felts into the material, and I put their initials. It also made for some here on the back side. I don't know what I'm going to do about that, if I'm going to leave it or if I'm going to try to like pick it off. Haven't decided on that yet, but that's the first one done. This one was done except from the letter last week, and then I had barely started on this one. Now it's done, and it's also gotten an initial. But these are knit in the same yarn. It's knit in Drops Alaska, which is way too fancy of a yarn really to felt, but it was what we had, and my family said we're not going to buy new yarn when we have something that can felt. So first I knit a swatch, felted that felted nicely. Then I knit this and felted this. This felted a lot more than the swatch, not comparable at all. And I only got this saved because I was watching the washing machine and stopped it ahead of time. But I'm really happy with this. It felted. It's going to be really nice and warm to sit on. And then since I had that experience, I knit this one the same way. It's just a different color, one light, one dark. And did the exact same thing, put it in the washing machine, same setting, same program, pulled it out even earlier than this one, and this has just felted very differently. As you can see, they are pretty much the same size, but this darker one feels very different. I don't know why at all, but I'm pretty sure it's thicker. I'm going to try to show. I don't know if you can see, but this is just a lot thicker. This was really hard to show, but I think this is thicker and this is thinner. This is a bit stiffer, but then I don't understand why they're the same size if one's felted more, and I don't know why this felted more since it was in the washing machine for less time. But I did see when it was in the washing machine that, oh no, this is felting more. So I did pull it out ahead of time. Thank God I did, because this felted so much. I don't know why. This is also the color I did the swatch in. So I just don't get it. I think what was the difference between the swatch and these bigger sitting mats is that the swatch was really tiny and didn't have a lot of weight. So when the washing machine threw these around, it had a lot more weight behind it to felt them more. So that's kind of my explanation for why these are different than the swatch. But I don't understand why they're different from each other. I don't know, do you have any experience? Is it because one is darker that it felt differently? Or could it just be the washing machine being in a different mood that day? I truly don't understand it, but since they are the same size. That was the most important part to me, that they are the same size, and I think they are a great size for small children because you can roll them or fold them, and then they're super tiny, they're easy to carry around, but they're also big enough that they should be able to fit all the way until like school age at least. I did make my son sit down on one just to test the size because I felt they turned out a bit small. They're maybe a bit more than half the size of my son's, so I made him sit down on one just to test, and he fit with a lot of spare room, so it should work out. But it was stressful to felt them, and especially stressful when this one wanted to felt more. But all in all, I'm happy. It was also really fun to needle felt, so now I think I want to get my own needle felting needle and just do that all the time, and also get my son hooked on it because it was just really fun. I just sat there poking and had the time of my life. So I recommend that if you just want to poke some aggression out, or just if you're in the market for a new hobby, needle felting. So fun, and it doesn't take a lot of effort. It doesn't take that many like appliances. Like with knitting, you have to have so many different needles, so many different yarns and the patterns. With needle felting, a needle, yarn that can felt, or just wool and something to felt it to, some fabric or a felted seating mat or something. It's great. Highly recommend. But this is my finished project for the week, and then I kind of finished both this week because I did the last finishing touches on them. But yeah, I think that is all of my projects and all my finished projects, all my whips for this week. And I know the last 2 times I haven't woven in ends, and it's kind of been because I have forgotten, and kind of been because I haven't had the time, and unfortunately I don't have the time today either. We're going to celebrate my fiance's birthday today, so I have to go to that, but hopefully that doesn't mean that I'm slipping up and forgetting to weave in my ends, because I do want to make better habits and I do want to finish them all by New Year's. So maybe next week. I think I might have a scheduling issue next week too, but before New Year's we're getting through all our unfinished ends. If I have to do it throughout the week, if I have to do it in the podcast, we're getting through it. We're getting them all done. It's just not going to be today. So that was all I had for this week's podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. That means the world to me. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. Bye!